Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm working on a tune, we'll call that the problem, but I don't think it is. I'm probably part of the definition of insanity because this has been to other shops trying to fix problem, and I started going about it the same way as everybody else did. Pretty sure that ain't the way to fix this truck. I want to start here. So this is a 2000 GMC Sierra, and it has been modified, and it is a beautiful little truck. Now, the thing about it is it's not just got some wheels on it, stuff like that. It has a whole bunch of mods underneath, as well as the mod under the hood. So this was done like, I don't know, a lot of years ago, like a lot of years ago. And it is a LS3 crate motor in it, and it has the crate ECU in it. And the problem I'm having with this truck is it has a terrible hunting idle, cold start. You know, eventually it smooths out, but the tune in it is, we're going to call it a can tune. And what I mean by a can tune is this tune is similar to a whole bunch of other tunes. So what that means is GM, they have two different sensors that operate an engine. And one of the sensors is used in combination with the other part of the time, and the other sensor is used kind of all the time. And what we have is the mass airflow sensor and the MAP sensor. And the MAP sensor, if you tune that, it really helps with drivability, transitions, all that kind of stuff. Now, GM, when they put the crate motors out, a lot of the tunes that I've seen from the factory crate ECUs, they only use the mass airflow sensor. And, you know, I've got those, they put the motors in, got them running, and then they come for a tune, and I tune the rest of it. Now, I see a lot of guys, when they get modifications done to their vehicle, shops, they just do the mass airflow sensor tune. Well, the mass airflow sensor tune, we're going to call that a pretty easy thing to tune. And if you delete this MAP sensor, it is going to run okay, but you might have drivability problems, and a lot of people do. But you know what? This is cheap and easy, and someone can make a quick buck, send you out the door, and you're good to go. And you know what? A lot of the times, no one is none the wiser. So it is what it is. But in this case, I think I have a problem here, and I'm going to show you why. So the tune that's in this is ignoring the MAP sensor. So what this sensor does, it actually senses the manifold air pressure, MAP sensor. And it takes a look at the really quick transitions, things that are going on in the intake. And then we have the mass airflow sensor, and this is measuring the air going into the engine. And what a tune does is, like, the basic part of a tune, at least on the fuel side, I'll cover that, is we actually calibrate these sensors. And the only way to do it is to do one at a time. So you shut one of the sensors off and you turn the other one on and you calibrate that sensor. Then you do it vice versa. And this one here is pretty easy because it's linear. It is just a like a 2D kind of tune. This is more like a 3D kind of tune thing. So if we take a look here, and I see this quite often when people do modifications, is the mass airflow sensor. Now, the location of the mass airflow sensor, you don't want it within 6 inches of the air filter or a big transition or an elbow. And because this was done a long time ago, it looks like someone may not have actually had the right pieces to mount this, because this has a hole underneath the mass airflow sensor that is hacked in there, and it has some screws, and there's actually air leaks around this sensor. So that's also going to give a false reading. But what happens, especially with a big camshaft, because this thing has a really rough idle. So at idle, we have air pulses going in and out, and we can end up with a lot of false readings going past this mass airflow sensor. So the two things that I'm talking about is we have this located right at a transition point, basically, and we are ignoring the map sensor. So how to fix this tune? Well, I think we're going to have to tune the map sensor, and we're going to have to make a new pipe to actually mount the mass airflow sensor somewhere in the middle of this pipe to smooth out those air pulses. Okay, so the mass airflow sensor, too close to the transition, too close to the air filter. At least that's what I think. We don't know yet, but there definitely is some problems with it. So this is what the mass airflow sensors in these GMs look like. Now, it has a little tiny wire. Actually, it's got more than one wire in there, and they're heated wires. And what happens is, as air flows by them, they're cooled down, and this senses the rate at how that happens. And anyway, it is a sensor, and it's a magic box to me. It either works or it doesn't. You can clean them with specific cleaner, but I'm not real worried about that. The basic principle is this senses how much air flows by it. But I ended up finding another issue. So other than this being cocked to the side a little bit, letting air leak by, the positive crankcase ventilation system, where it gets its air from, was, I mean, it's after the sensor. So the throttle body is here that goes into the intake, air filter's here. So this is in the right place, but the problem is this grommet, first of all, is seriously cracked up. It's a piece of crap. And the hole that it was in, when it's pushed to one side of the hole, you can get false air going in. And you can see here, it was pushed one side, so we're getting unmetered air going into the engine. So depending on air filter plugged, whatever, we have a problem. A double problem, first of all, with mass airflow sensor location and this here. And another quick note, anytime you use this type of mass airflow sensor, there are arrows on them, and you have to make sure that they're pointing towards air flow. This one was in properly. Here is the solution to the problems that we have. First of all, we have a proper mount for the mass airflow sensor. I can cut the hole, put this in, weld it on, and then we have a really nice, good sealing mount, as well as I can weld in this aluminum bung, and then we can thread in a fitting for the hose to go on instead of a grommet with a loose nipple in it. And this should take care of all the air leaks in here. Now, how does this affect the tune? Well, air leaks affect tune. So we're going to take care of that first of all. I'll throw some bead rolls on and we'll get this welded on. Okay, this is all welded up and ready to go on the truck. Before you do that, you want to double check that you did everything right. And what I mean by that is, well, this boss is in the middle, and you'd think that you could flip this end for end, but if you notice, these bolts on these card style mass airflow sensors are offset, so they can't go in the wrong way. And so you want to make sure the arrow is pointing towards the throttle body. Now, why is that important? Well, because we have the PCV system here, and you may ask, well, isn't that going to give false air into the engine? No. What's happening here is we have air going through this tube into the throttle body, and this is actually taking filtered air into the crankcase in a very small amount, and the PCV system is tied into the intake. So any of the air that's going through is actually metered air, and it's accurate. Now, why wouldn't I want this over here? Well, you can get some residue and some running conditions coming in here. And the last thing I want to do is take and make my mass airflow sensor dirty from the oil in the PCV system. So the best way to try and overcome that is putting this as close to the throttle body as possible. Well, I have to say, just from experience looking at where the MAP sensor used to be to where it is now, I can almost guarantee you, even starting this vehicle with the mass airflow tune, without even touching the tune, the idle is going to be more stable. That's from experience. Start it up, running from cold. It's running for about 3-4 minutes, and it was near impossible to get the fueling sorted out at the bottom. And I have only tuned the mass airflow, not even the speed density yet. And I'm not sure if you can see, the oxygen sensors aren't in play, and we are getting some really great numbers for the low speed RPM. And this thing just sounds awesome. Now, if there's somebody out there that has more experience with this kind of stuff, add to the comments. If there's anybody that has any questions about sensor placement and how this stuff should be, that'd be great if you ask those questions in the comments. And I am just going to get into tuning both the mass airflow and the MAP sensor, because I really want to catch those quick changes in the intake, and that's done with manifold vacuum. So anyway, if you don't mind, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.